In 2022, the world believed artificial intelligence had a clear leader. America's Silicon Valley was at the center of innovation. OpenAI, Google, Meta, and Microsoft controlled the frontier. But less than 3 years later, that certainty began to crumble. A single announcement from a little-known Chinese company, DeepSeek, sent shockwaves through the global tech community. It wasn't just that China had caught up. It was that the playing field itself had changed. This is the story of how DeepSeek's rise redrew the map of global AI power. A story of engineering breakthroughs, political tension, and a silent race for control of the most transformative technology in history. Before DeepSeek, the path of AI seemed straightforward. In late 2022, OpenAI released ChatGPT, a conversational system so fluent it felt almost human. Its launch marked the first time artificial intelligence entered the mainstream. Within months, millions of people were using it daily. Businesses rewrote workflows, universities debated policies, and governments started to take notice. AI was no longer an abstract concept. It was a tool of real influence. Behind the scenes, however, its creation was resource-intensive beyond imagination. Training GPT-4 reportedly consumed thousands of high-end GPUs, cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and required access to vast data centers supplied by Microsoft's Azure cloud. Only a handful of corporations could afford that level of investment. It seemed that the barrier to entry for cutting-edge AI was impossibly high, until DeepSeek proved otherwise. DeepSeek was founded in 2023 by Liang Wenfang, a former quantitative trader and hedge fund manager. Unlike the household names dominating Silicon Valley, Liang had no background in big tech conglomerates. But he understood two things very well: data and efficiency. At his fund, Highflyer Capital, Liang had built algorithms capable of processing enormous streams of financial information in real time. That same mindset of optimizing every byte, every cycle, every fraction of energy became the foundation of DeepSeek's design philosophy. When DeepSeek R1 was announced in early 2025, it appeared to be just another large language model. But engineers who examined it noticed something unusual. It performed on par with OpenAI's GPT-4 and Anthropic's Claude models. Yet it had been trained using a fraction of the hardware and less than 1/1000th of the budget. The entire project cost roughly $6 million, compared to the billions spent by its Western competitors. In a field where size and spending usually determine success, DeepSeek had achieved efficiency that defied conventional wisdom. To understand why DeepSeek's breakthrough mattered, you have to understand the economics of AI. Each new generation of models requires exponentially more data and computing power. That's why most Western AI firms depend on NVIDIA's most powerful chips, the A100 and H100 GPUs. But after 2023, U.S. export restrictions made those chips largely unavailable to Chinese companies. On paper, that should have slowed China's progress dramatically. Instead, it forced innovation. DeepSeek's engineers designed custom training frameworks that extracted maximum performance from the limited hardware available domestically. They developed compression methods that reduced the redundancy of training data and rewrote key optimization algorithms to lower energy usage without sacrificing output quality. The result was a system that could train faster, run on cheaper infrastructure, and still compete with state-of-the-art Western models. It wasn't about building the biggest AI, it was about building the smartest one. This efficiency sent a clear signal to the world. The AI race was no longer about who spent the most, it was about who engineered the best. What truly set DeepSeek apart was not just its technical success, but its philosophy. Instead of locking its code behind closed corporate walls, DeepSeek released its model under the MIT open source license, one of the most permissive frameworks in software. That meant anyone could download, modify, and use DeepSeek R1 for commercial purposes without paying royalties. In an industry dominated by secrecy and subscription models, this was a radical move. Developers across Asia, Europe, and even the United States began experimenting with the technology within days. Startups that previously couldn't afford to build their own models suddenly had access to near state-of-the-art AI for free. It sparked what analysts later called the open source cascade. New applications, from translation tools to research assistants, were built using DeepSeek's foundation. The decision democratized advanced AI development and disrupted the business models of companies that relied on proprietary access. The reaction in Silicon Valley was immediate and uneasy. Executives at OpenAI, Google DeepMind, and Anthropic privately acknowledged that DeepSeek's performance-per-cost ratio was extraordinary. In interviews, several researchers admitted that such efficiency was a wake-up call for the Western AI ecosystem. Microsoft and Oracle, both major cloud providers, began lobbying for expanded United States government initiatives to maintain technological leadership. Shortly after DeepSeek's rise, the United States announced Project Stargate, a partnership between government and industry aiming to construct the world's largest AI training facility. The proposed investment, $500 billion. Officially, the goal was to ensure the United States remained at the frontier of AI research. Unofficially, many analysts saw it as a direct response to China's unexpected advance. While Project Stargate symbolized scale and power, DeepSeek represented agility and focus, two opposing philosophies now defining the new AI age. DeepSeek's success quickly transcended technology. It entered the realm of geopolitics. For decades, global power had been measured through military strength and economic size. Now, intelligence, both human and artificial, was becoming a third axis of competition. AI models control how societies process information. They summarize news, generate media, assist in decision-making, and influence public discourse. If one nation could shape the foundation of that technology, it could indirectly shape how billions of people interact with information. That's why both Washington and Beijing treat AI as a matter of national security. In China, the government's New Generation AI Development Plan aims for self-sufficiency in advanced algorithms by 2030. In the United States, the National AI Research Resource Task Force is building infrastructure to maintain American leadership. DeepSeek's emergence intensified that rivalry. It proved that despite export bans and chip shortages, Chinese innovation could still compete globally, and in some areas, even lead. Yet DeepSeek's path is far from guaranteed. AI models, really thrive on vast, diverse data. But China's internet is tightly regulated. Certain topics, languages, and social interactions are restricted or filtered. That limits the variety of data available for training, which is a potential obstacle to maintaining global-level performance. Moreover, open-source freedom carries its own risks. Because DeepSeek's architecture is public, it can be adapted by anyone, including entities that might misuse it for misinformation or cyber operations. Balancing accessibility with security has become one of the central debates in the global AI community. Western institutions argue for controlled access to powerful models, while open-source advocates claim transparency ensures accountability. DeepSeek sits at the heart of that discussion, a symbol of both progress and uncertainty. From a technical perspective, DeepSeek's success is forcing researchers to rethink how artificial intelligence evolves. For years, the assumption was that progress depended on scaling. Larger models, more parameters, more computation. DeepSeek challenged that by showing that algorithmic efficiency could sometimes outperform brute force. The approach, honestly, kind of mirrors what happened in the semiconductor industry during the 1980s, when Japanese and later Taiwanese manufacturers learned to produce more reliable chips at lower costs, reshaping global supply chains. Now, a similar shift may be underway in AI performance, driven not just by size, but by optimization. If DeepSeek's methods become standard, the entire economic landscape of machine learning could change, lowering entry barriers for smaller countries and companies. In that sense, DeepSeek's impact extends beyond national rivalry. It could democratize global access to intelligence itself. Behind every algorithm lies a human story: engineers, researchers, and visionaries who push boundaries for reasons beyond competition. Interviews with DeepSeek's staff reveal a deep sense of purpose to prove that innovation isn't limited to geography or funding. Many of them previously worked at top universities or tech firms before returning to China to pursue independent research. Their motivation reflects a broader cultural trend: a generation of technologists who want to show that excellence can emerge anywhere talent and determination exist. This human element is often overlooked in geopolitical narratives, yet it remains the engine of every breakthrough. Today, the global AI landscape is in flux. The United States still holds vast advantages: access to capital, advanced chips, and leading research institutions. But China has demonstrated that it can innovate under constraint. International analysts now speak of a dual ecosystem: one Western, dominated by closed commercial platforms; the other Eastern, increasingly defined by open-source collaboration and state coordination. Neither system is inherently superior. Each reflects its society's values, one prioritizing private entrepreneurship, the other national strategy. Yet both share a common realization: AI is no longer a laboratory experiment. It's infrastructure, as fundamental as electricity or the internet, and whoever leads in building that infrastructure will shape the next century. As DeepSeek continues to evolve, its developers are preparing the next generation of models, aiming for improved reasoning and multilingual comprehension. Meanwhile, Western companies are accelerating their own releases, from OpenAI's multimodal GPT-5 to Google's Gemini Ultra. The pace is relentless, and collaboration may soon become as important as competition. Researchers on both sides quietly acknowledge that global challenges, climate modeling, healthcare prediction, sustainable energy, will require shared AI solutions. In that sense, DeepSeek's open-source approach could serve as a bridge rather than a barrier. But whether that bridge leads to cooperation or further fragmentation remains uncertain. DeepSeek's rise marks more than just a technical milestone. It's a turning point in how the world understands innovation. It showed that the boundaries between nations, companies, and ideas are increasingly porous. That ingenuity can thrive even under constraint, and that the future of intelligence, artificial or otherwise, will belong to those who think differently. When historians look back at this decade, they may see 2025 as the year the global balance of AI power shifted, not through confrontation, but through code, not by force, but by design. DeepSeek didn't just challenge Silicon Valley, it reminded the world that progress is universal. And in doing so, it redefined what technological leadership means in the 21st century. In the race for artificial intelligence, speed matters, but so does vision. And sometimes, the most profound revolutions begin quietly, in a lab on the other side of the world, written in lines of code that change everything. Because intelligence in any form has no borders. And DeepSeek just proved it. If you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the like button.